Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to present the transportation highlights for the 23-24 school year. Thank you, Mrs. Hawk, for that beautiful bus picture. It is fantastic. We love it. We'll begin with some transportation developments. So we started the 22-23 school year, this year, with contractor bus assistance for 6 Monroe-Woodbury home-to-school routes. But through employee recruiting efforts, for example, Drive the Bus event, which we held on Saturdays in April and October, and then the driver hiring incentive, and then the driver referral program. Those recruitment efforts, coupled with the financial incentives, allowed us to fill the 6 driver vacancies. So by mid-October, we no longer required the use of contractor assistance for our Monroe-Woodbury home-to-school busing. Unfortunately, since then, we've had our share of challenges, and we've lost 3 routed drivers through resignations for various reasons. We have 2 routed drivers on long-term leave, so we're back up to 5 vacancies at the moment. Absentee amongst the bus drivers remains challenging. We have an absentee rate of about 7% or 6 drivers per day. At the highest points, we have 11 plus drivers out on any given day. And we have, with the driver deficit, we've got 5 open runs. We've got 4 regular substitutes who commit to us every day. Then we have 10 limited availability substitutes, which those 10 people may be the equivalent of 4 substitute drivers because they're subs and they choose to work on call. So with that being said, those 10 limited, even though they're limited availability, we still needed to train them. And training, all the new training efforts, there's a lot of new regulations, and it costs about $10,000 to get a driver behind the wheel now. So those 10 people that we trained, that's equal to about $100,000 in training. And so we have to continue to recruit. Recruiting efforts are vital, and retaining people is also as vital. Oh, we have another Drive the Bus campaign coming up. We just, we're setting a date with Mrs. Spenley, and we'll be announcing that soon. So the transportation personnel budget. One second. So after adding contractual and longevity increases and reallocating some codes to different areas. For example, Andre spoke in his presentation about the 2 positions that were moved from transportation because those people are technically from the buildings and grounds side. Those positions that were in our budget, transportation, $121,598. Those were moved over to buildings and grounds codes. The McKinney-Vento or our homeless students, we don't have the resources, meaning the drivers, to cover those runs. So those McKinney-Vento students, their transportation was reallocated to the contract transportation piece, which you'll see later on in the presentation. And in addition, we had 1 retirement of a bus mechanic, a longtime bus mechanic, and he retired. And because we have reduced the size of the fleet, we did not fill that position at this time. So the $6,296,541 budget has decreased 2% to $6,160,432. So with contract transportation, we have our cost drivers. So this chart illustrates the yeshiva school population growth over the past couple of years. We are predicting approximately 15% growth for the 23-24 school year. In addition, the high-cost transportation area, which would include the BOCES COSER, mostly including the kids that attend out-of-county programs. That went out to bid. The vendor decided not to extend that bid, and that was after our budget was already set for last year. And so BOCES went out to bid again, and the COSER, it was significantly higher than had been anticipated. I want to say, we calculated, I went over it with Tanya, it was approximately 24% more. And unfortunately, the COSER service, they don't have the resources to adequately deliver the service that our students require. So the struggle to that, and it's not for equipment, it's the driver situation for them as well. But they can't deliver the service, so our students still have to get where they need to go, and we need reputable contractors, and because of the lack of the COSER capacity, we've been forced to go out to bid with other vendors, and the rates are just much higher than they've ever been. And also I had discussed this in the previous slide, the McKinney-Vento students. We have the McKinney-Vento students, when I say that, I don't mean the kids who are relocated within our own district, we cover those, but this is students who live outside the district, sometimes far outside the district, who are, we're still required to transport to to Monroe-Woodbury. So this pie chart illustrates the breakdown of the contract transportation code of $11,155,363. Just pointing out the three, higher, that's on. Okay, so the three highest sections of this would be the high cost in COSER, which is our out-of-county transportation, our other non-public schools, and our non-public yeshiva schools being the biggest portion of that budget. Transportation expenditures, parts, we continue to see increases in the cost of bus parts, sometimes up to 50% more. So you would think, well, the size of the fleet is less, but the price of the parts is more. So, we're still required to keep even the oldest bus in top-notch running condition, and sometimes we have supply chain issues. We could have buses in the parking lot waiting for one part for months on end, just waiting. So we're still struggling with that. And fuel, good news and bad news. While it was wildly fluctuating all year long, it seems to be stabilizing a bit. And the prediction for next year is, that it will remain stable. So that is the good news. So the increase in the budget was 14.83% in overall. So it was from $16,539,415 to $18,991,921. And you could see here that, that was largely, it was driven by the contract transportation code. Our school bus safety poster contest was a huge hit again this year. We have some big surprises coming for you when we do our accommodations night in May. So I'll give you some more information, but we do have one student who, her poster is on its way to the national level at this point. It's really exciting. We love it, they love it, and it sends the message of safety, which is the biggest part. We do have really talented artistic children, but it does have the safety messages number one for us. And finally, I would just like to thank all the people in my department, our dispatchers, the mechanics, the drivers, the attendants, our trainers, the clerical, my assistant Jessie, and all of these people play such an integral role in the safe transportation of our most precious cargo. So thank you. And any questions?
I have a question. Since we have so many vacancies, have you reverted back to contractors?
We have.
Yeah.
No, not for the home to school.
Okay.
I'll tell you how we cover those. So, we have the DEF CON 4 or 5, I know if you know, we have a military guy. So when the dispatch says DEF CON something, it means everybody has to
Sounds
push
like war
forward.
games.
Yeah, no, we do. And so all the dispatchers, they all are licensed and are able to drive. So our dispatch staff goes out to drive. We have somebody in the office who also can drive. We have our trainers who stop training and go to drive. And then Jesse's usually at dispatch because I would rather drive than do that. And, because then the best part about the job is being around the kids, right? Because they're the best part. And, and that's how we get through a rough day. And there's been a lot of rough days. And so, we can make it better, because we don't want to have the work contracted out. It's difficult when a contractor is doing the Monroe-Woodbury work, and the reason is that, we're not on the same radio system, so you might have a couple of contractors parked at a Monroe-Woodbury slot, and now, our parents call for everything. They love us. We love them, so they'll call us for the littlest thing, and we can't answer the question because we don't have contact with that bus driver personally. So then it's just a very complicated and long, and the parents start to worry, and then we start to worry. It's actually better when we have the home to school runs. The ones that are contracted out, we know who to call and when, and they know how, it's just better. It's better to have our own staff covering our own routes.
Sure.
So that's our goal. I'm going to be working with Mrs. Hawk a lot.
Do we know why there's so many absentees?
During COVID, it was really tough, and we see waves. We see the stomach virus right now. It's going through the classrooms, and those kids are on the buses, and then now it's the stomach virus, and then we get through that. Sometimes it's the flu season, then it gets real, COVID, it was just bad all the time, every single day. Now we could have 2 absent or 12 absent, we don't know, but the dispatcher spent a lot of time looking ahead at what's the next day? What's the next day going to bring? What's the worst day of the week going to be? What's the hardest day? And we make it happen every day, but.
Do we have any projections going forward for the amount of non-public students we're going to end up transporting as the years go on? And what we could do to mitigate the costs associated with that?
Well, we've got our arms around somewhat. We really have worked very hard to get our arms around the projecting the growth, and it's just very difficult. Because if you take a ride, you can look around and, we don't get out as much as we should, because Jesse and I are in the office a lot. But the other day, we took a ride. We had to go towards Washingtonville for something work-related, and we just were in awe of because we don't always get out to get to the far ends of our district and see the growth. And so sometimes I'll call my counterpart, Judah Spitzer from KJUFSD, and we'll talk about growth and what does he think and what is he predicting, and so we have a lot of factors. It's what's happened over the years historically, and then it's.
The one thing I was going to mention is, so we have engaged the BOCES on Long Island, Suffolk BOCES, to do a demographic study for us. So I'm going to reach out to them and actually mention this idea that we're seeing this large growth in contract transportation, it's non-public, servicing non-public students, and just see how they handle that. If they're not already taking, like they're probably not because it's enrollment for our district, but if they could help us understand that and project that out in a more scientific way.
I mean,
Right, now you asked about controlling the cost too, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that also goes back to what Mike said about queuing the census data, because that type of population growth is above and beyond what you would normally see in census samples, I guess. So that would be another reason to requeue and to see if this is something that can change.
Would it be wise to reach out to a neighboring district that might have a similar situation and see what they've seen in terms of increased size over time, increased population that requires non-public transportation?
do I think we should do that? Is that what you're asking?
Would it be a good idea just to see what they've experienced?
Well, we have done that, right? I mean, Dawn, do you want to speak to that, how you're in contact with colleagues, right?
Yeah, colleagues, in the East Ramapo area, even Lakewood, New Jersey. I've spoken to a company that's hired to, not PTSI, it was, we've reached out to companies that, help you make sure you're being efficient, like an efficiency study almost, and ask, how did they handle this? Because I know that sometimes they'll hire outside sources to help,
Right.
with those, like, do efficiency
Yeah,
studies.
I think a lot of times, and we had reached out and we had engaged PTSI, which is one of the firms that does consulting work for an efficiency study and some other things, and COVID occurred, right? So,
Right.
and I think I spoke about this, a lot of
Right.
the assumptions and things that they were working with just all went out the window, and we didn't really get a good final report from that. But it can be something that we, look at again. I think our situation is somewhat unique. It's not entirely unique, right? But, PTSI, they're a statewide organization, but they're based around Syracuse, I think, upstate New York.
Right, and a lot of people, they really don't know. There's very
Right.
few resources in that area, and they really don't understand.
Right.
They
So
don't.
I'm
They don't
thinking-
even know what that means when you
Right.
say,
Right.
but when you talk about the population growth and how that's happening, they don't understand. So it's
But
very,
there's retrospective data. You can look back 20, 30 years ago and see what happened to the population and try to draw some conclusions based on that.
well, I could tell you this. I've been here 13 years now, and when I came, we were transporting 46 girls, 46. And now we're transporting 2,000 students to those schools. So that's over a 13-year period.
So is it better than, you guys were saying 15%, it was 18, almost 18 and a half before, and 15% next year. To me, that makes it sound like it's slowing down, and I just haven't seen that. So is it more like
I know, well,
like a
this
range
was,
that we should give instead of?
we discussed this a lot, Patrick and Tanya and I.
What people are required to do to gain transportation from the district.
Right.
How reliable our data is based on what the registrar process is.
Right, so
In your department.
there was a period of time where I think transportation was being provided, even without us realizing, to kids who hadn't registered in the district. And so now we've got, the families are really, they know that they have to get their children registered with the district and the registrar and provide everything, and they know about the April 1st deadline.
There's deadlines associated with that, and we're more
Yes.
strictly enforcing those deadlines, and, we have a
Right.
more,
So registration
Ju-
is at the registrar and it's for transportation.
So I just want to say what has happened is that we've put very stringent and specific protocol for any student, right? So if anyone is coming to the district and requiring any kind of transportation, we have a very strict process in place to ensure that any student who is registered in our district that is entitled to transportation receives it. And so we've done that work with our registrar's office, which has really helped us take a look at actual data to allow us to make some predictions. So that has really helped us over the last couple of years, and we have an idea. Now, can we, with 100% accuracy, determine that? The answer is no. But we have some accuracy, some data that we use, and in addition to having this study done, which we will also reach out to a school district like East Ramapo, I think it's gonna take multiple groups of people to really give us better accurate data, because I don't think that a typical school study that any school district would have done would help us. We would need to modify that with additional services. So there's multiple things that we've done, going back to, again, having a more concrete, specific, protocol-driven process for people to register in the district, so that their children can provide, whether it's a parent whose child is going to go to our school or a child who's going to go to an outside district placement. We have very strong protocols, and we are in contact always, well, Eric is, because Dr. Hassler oversees that, is in contact when we have a question. So we make sure that all of our processes are in place, and so that if someone receives transportation, whether it's to a private school, to our district, to an outside agency, they are enrolled in our district, and it gives us really good, better data. But we will have to do multiple things to get an accurate study done.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because I'll just say it, it's not in here, obviously you didn't put 15% here as part of your voiceover, which is fine. But it's kind of like people's ears are gonna perk like, oh, it's slowing down. But when really it's 15% it's a swag estimate, I would call it.
Correct.
It's not meant
Correct.
to be accurate.
Yes,
You know,
it
could
really
be
is.
It could be 20%, we don't know yet.
Right, or 23, like we all had a
We don't
different
know.
idea. Yeah, we all had a different idea
Yeah.
what it was gonna be, but,
But thank you, it makes sense.
The other efficiency increase we have done, we have connected student management system and transportation system. So big thanks to Dawn and Jesse. So these are not silos. So they are live connected, and the data efficiency has been much improved because registration is the only person does the data entry, and she has done a really good job of changing this system process-wise as well.
Great, thank you.
and we had to deny transportation, to a lot of students who didn't apply on time this past year. And we sent our applications out nice and early this year, and we've been following up. And even the Hasidic contractors have been reaching out to parents to remind them, because people forget, you put it on the side and you just forget. So,
And that April 1st deadline is not a Monroe-Woodbury, it is a state. The state requires you to put in an application if you move in the district by April 1st. So that is not our district.
Or if you purchase a home or move into the school district after April 1st, you have a 30-day window. If you don't register within that 30 days, you have to wait until the subsequent school year in order to be able to do it.
Do we have a per-student cost for the different populations? So for yeshiva, how much is it costing for the high cost, I think you put in one? And then for the home routes, I think you call them,
I think we're 12s, I can confirm for you, I'm estimating $12.76 per student for the bigger groups. And then we have the smaller population of yeshiva schools are Congregation B'nai Yoel, and they're on a cost per bus basis. And they're much smaller, but they're more spread out, So we authorized, there was 5 buses for them, and then this way, when they had growth, they were going to fit on those buses that we agreed to, where the other contractors are getting a cost per student. And with the CPI was 6.3%, so this was our first year of increasing that dollar amount.
Jeffrey's question, was that cost per student across different types of transportation delivery, or just one?
really, I'm just looking to see what the difference is.
Right.
So, the kid that's just going,
Yeah.
obviously the
have
kid
that.
that's going to a few blocks, that's riding on the bus, is likely cheaper than the kid that's going far out to the district, right? So, so I'd like to just see what that difference is, because at some point, we're gonna have to, somehow, some way, much smarter people than me, figure out the cost as we continue to grow, which we all, I think, feel is gonna happen. So if we can be ahead of that and figure out what we need, what levers and
Are you asking about public school costs, like public school students, and then maybe non-public
student that's
school, and
getting
then
on one
maybe
of our buses,
closer, like that? Okay.
we
Yeah,
can- we
we
can
have
do that.
that.
High-cost student,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
right?
Okay. Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, just to follow up on the absenteeism that you've noted, is that like in historical percentages, or is this something new entirely these past couple of years?
No.
Reach high?
When I was hired 13 years ago again, we had 50 sub-drivers, 50. And that's the one thing that jumped right off the paper at me. And I said, and Ken Dalbert, he said, don't touch it. And I know, that's, they were needed. But also, remember, we had 9, 10, 11, 12 athletic trips on any given day. So you were covering athletics. And because the drivers contractually would get the trips, so you're covering, now you're covering their runs, so you're having 12, so you needed 20 sub-drivers on any given day just to cover athletics and then absenteeism. And then again, those subs aren't available every day, but we literally had 50 sub-drivers in addition to the 110 routed drivers. Now, we're down to 84 routes in district That Monroe Woodbury Drivers Drive, we had 110 in the beginning, but, and we had 50 sub-drivers, and every day was like sunshine, because we just had enough, plenty of staff, but now we don't. So it's times have changed.
There's spare capacity in the system, right, to absorb any issues or extra demands that come
Right.
up.
I mean, there was even a time where we had drivers on the outskirts of the district for those emergencies, and they happen. Buses break down, things go wrong, and we just had a driver ready and perched and ready to go, and kids never waited more than 5 minutes and at the end of the day, if somebody wasn't outside quickly because they were stuck in the room with their teacher or they lingered too long in the hallway, we could scoop them up and bring them home. I'm not saying that's what we want to do, but I'm just saying we had the capacity to do that. And now,
You don't.
if you miss the bus, you better call your mom. Yeah.
And it's not a Monroe Woodbury issue, right? It's an issue in pretty much all.
Oh, it's a nationwide problem. It literally is, it's very challenging. And right now, to be honest, like, we have contractors that are in our district who reside, their operations are in our district, and they're paying a lot of money. They're not getting the same benefits that Monroe Woodbury drivers are getting, but if you think about a retiree who doesn't need those benefits, they've got their benefits for the rest of their life. They want to make money. They're young, they're retired, and they want to make as much as they can. We're losing those people to contractors who are paying way more. So there's got to be a balance, I know, but Lori and
Do we
I,
offer any incentive for, let's say, a retired person who has their own health insurance? Do we offer any incentive for them to work with us?
no.
Maybe we should. I mean, we're not paying health care for
They
them.
can't be in the retirement system once they've retired, too. So
Right.
it becomes, it's a little bit of a, the increase in the cap, that helped us, the 35,000.
The waiver.
The waiver, I'm
Yep.
sorry, the
Earnings
waiver.
Yeah.
But then they increased the waiver for security to $50,000, did they not? So that hurt us again, because, well, I would drive a bus for $35,000 or work for security.
yeah.
They're retirees, so now we lost them too, because, yeah, so it's been, thanks, Joe. Yeah.
I saw that comment.
It's tough, it's tough. We're in a tough situation, but we're not going to stop trying.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I want to thank you all very much for the presentation. It was very thorough, well done, lots to absorb. Thank you.